This is Sky Blues Extra.
Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Sky Blues Extra Live. And if you thought Saturday was negative, then you can't wait for tonight. Myself and Wardy with you. Once again, another frustrating night for the Sky Blues, running out 2-1 defeat versus Middlesbrough in what was a pretty poor game, wasn't it, Tom?
Yeah, it was a pretty poor game. Started okay, didn't we? But yeah, it was poor. Had a bit of a go in the second half for about 10, 15 minutes, but just lacked quality to create a chance or a goal. And then just calamitous stuff again, really, wasn't it? I've no other way to describe it, really.
Yeah, it's the same old story, isn't it? Each week, toothless in attack, stopping mistakes at the back. We never really get going in large periods of the game. It's 5-10 minutes here and there. And it's worrying, isn't it? Now it's worrying.
Yeah, it is worrying because, yeah, you just don't know where that goal is going to come from, that winner, that bit of magic. It's just, we're lacking that, aren't we? Even players like Hamer, the pitch wasn't great, which doesn't help, but even he wasn't doing much at all, was he?
No, not at all. No, I mean, I've said the same about Gus for a couple of weeks. I think he's gone off the ball a little bit. I think the championship season is taking its toll on someone who hasn't played in this division or in this country. It's very different football here to what it is in Holland, that's for sure. So maybe it's taking its toll on him a little bit. But I look at the likes of Walker tonight, didn't really do anything. Max, to an extent, played well again, but just he's missing that. He's not got that bright spark to sort of take the game by the scruff of the neck, has he?
Like I think he held the ball up reasonably well, but he just lacks that quick decision making. There was one in the first half where he'd done really well, and then he just waited for so long, and then inevitably they got the ball off him. So you just need to be a bit quicker. But then again, the support isn't exactly great, is it? It's not like he's got options all around him. So he's having to hold it up and wait for an option, and it doesn't always come straight away. So not an easy role for him, but yeah, could be doing a bit better.
It does feel like again we sort of chucked it away when we had an opportunity to take the game by the scruff of the neck and perhaps do something different. Middlesbrough weren't great tonight. There's some decent performances, I thought, from individuals, but as a team, I didn't think they were much of a threat. So it feels like one where if we'd have just gone into that second gear, third gear, if we've got that, maybe we haven't got that.
Yeah, exactly. I think that was it. I think that was just the difference, really. I think neither team, as a team, played very well, like you say. I think they just had Howson was decent, wasn't he? And he just every time they came forward, he worried me. Like even just before that goal, I said, he's stressing me out a bit because he's going to do something in a minute. And sure enough, he did. So they just had that one player who was kind of carrying them a little bit. We didn't have anyone like that, did we? That they were kind of scared of when we were going on the attack.
Absolutely. We've got a lot of comments, a lot of calls. So we'll get to all those in a second. I just want to ask you about that. Yeah, I just want to ask you about that second goal because I think that sums up everything, doesn't it? Howson's run from the right-hand side of the pitch to the left without a challenge. Yeah. He's gone past 5 or 6 players. No one's put a challenge in. And eventually the ball's dropped back to him and he's put the sucker punch in across goal.
Yeah, absolute calamity. I mean, I was watching on the red button, so I've only seen it once, to be fair, but I need to watch it back just to kind of see exactly what happened, really. But yeah, like you say, the fact he's been able to get to that position without any sort of challenge and get the ball across at that time of the game as well, like it's criminal, really.
Absolutely schoolboy.
And as soon as you're putting the ball across like that, it can go anywhere. But it's just annoying, isn't it? Like, why don't we do that? Like O'Hare got to that position in the first half, I think, and didn't create anything. It's just annoying, isn't it? That you just, as soon as an opposition player gets to that position, you know exactly what's going to happen. But with us, we seem to make hard work of it.
And no one makes mistakes against us, do they? That's the thing. We have to work really hard for our goals. But other teams, we just let them pretty much score at will. It's really frustrating.
It was inevitable. Like I said at half time, I was like, one of these a team's going to win 2-1 here, and we just, even though we had a bit of a go, we just lacked that bit of quality to do it, to get over the line. which is a shame.
All right, let's whittle through these comments before we get Glenn in to talk first. Josh, we battle so hard and let set soft shots away. Yep, literally just echoing what we just said there. Reese is sick of seeing how many times we're just giving games away. To be honest, it's going to be near enough 10, 12 games this season where we've either let a team come back into it to draw or let them get away with a victory.
It's almost tiring, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's because we're watching it at home as well, but it's tiring almost, watching it week in, week out.
Absolutely. GJ Christina saying no shots on target is shocking. Yeah,
it is.
Another game with very little, well, in this game, 0 shots on target, but there's been games this season where we've only had 1 or 2, which is criminal, and you're not going to do anything in this league. Ollie saying that Hamer let Howson go for the second. Adam, big fan of Robbins, but only used 1 sub when we desperately needed fresh legs. Poor management. Yep, there's question marks over that. There's been a couple of times this year in games that have a little bit scrappy. Fresh legs would have perhaps given us another string in the bow.
Yeah,
perhaps,
I suppose
forward,
it's just
especially
it's what we've said for a while. It's who we've got on the bench, but to be honest, I just would have used the subs. I know it's like Bakker and Yokeres, but I think that was what we needed, was some fresh legs. Walker wasn't doing anything. Biami was shattered. So why not just bring Bakker on, with some fresh legs? But Robbins was stubborn again, wasn't he?
Absolutely. Jonathan Brown echoing the why only 1 sub used comment. Sure, we got nothing to lose, but to put a couple of subs on for the last 15, absolutely wholeheartedly agree with that. Michael saying defending was embarrassing. How could we go from being so tight last season to this rubbish? And I think that's just due to the step up being the championship. I mean, are we seeing now a League One side, which is generally a League One side that we've got, being found out in a higher division?
I think so. Definitely defensively. I think because you've got you got Hyman, Fads, who probably League One defenders. Hyman possibly will make it at some point, but needs a couple of years in the division. Ostergaard's a bit of an unknown, really, isn't he? Because he's obviously come for a very good academy at Brighton. There's lots of Ben White, Lewis Dunk, people like that have come through there, but again hasn't really played like first team football, I would imagine, in England anyway. So he's stepping up as well. Yeah,
Pete's echoing those comments about a League One team. Where's the saying we don't look dangerous going forward? I think wholeheartedly, again, I can't do anything but agree with all these comments this evening. Josh, we have 5 opportunities to use subs. When is Robbins going to use them? I mean, there's talent on that bench. Ben Sheaf's there.
I think Gibello was on the bench tonight.
That gives you a different option with a bit of wing.
If we're not using Gibello tonight, when are we going to use him? Is he fully fit? If he's not, why is he on the bench? A lot of question marks, really.
Absolutely, yeah. Ian saying in the strikers' defence, there was a huge gap between them and the midfield, constantly outnumbered and support too slow. I do agree with the support, but I don't agree with them being huge gaps this evening. I thought it was pretty tight in all areas of the pitch. Yeah,
not gaps. I just think not, like I was saying about Biami, not good options for him. Do you know what I mean? There wasn't someone in a good position. He was always playing it back, like to Kelly, and like really far back sometimes. There was no one kind of like bombing on and like linking up well with him. So I think that was the frustration.
Absolutely. And we'll go for one more comment before we go into the first call. Avin Jandu, we just struggled to turn territory into good chances. Looked leggy, but can't complain about reduced substitutions because there wasn't an obvious substitution and our squad depth is lacking. One guy I want to point out is Francis Dabo. I don't think he looks himself. He doesn't seem to want to take players on like he used to. Doesn't seem to have that engine that we're used to seeing him running up and down the pitch. Do you reckon he's lacking fitness a little bit?
Possibly, yeah, because I think he has been rushed back to an extent, hasn't he? Because of obviously Da Costa. I don't think the plan was obviously for Dabo to be back in this quickly. I think it probably would have stuck with Da Costa and then maybe given Dabo 20 minutes here and there until he was fully ready. So he's probably been rushed back. And yeah, I agree. He just didn't quite look himself. There was a couple of occasions in the second half where you just wanted him to bomb on and beat his man. Mm-hmm. And you might as well do that, especially, what's the worst that's going to happen? You might win a corner or throw in or whatever. How many times did he do that last season? And he was just sort of just stuck, wasn't he? A little bit deep and not
Yeah.
much that he could do there. So, yeah, I think he's probably not quite there yet. And I don't know how long DaCosta's out for, but yeah, interesting one with Dabo.
Absolutely, yeah. Let's get Glenn's thoughts. Glenn, good to have you with us on SkyBluesExtra Live. You must be bitterly disappointed in that. Glenn?
So disappointed. You
haven't fallen asleep on us, Glenn? I think Glenn might have fallen asleep on us. Let's bring Josh in instead, who's waiting in the wings. Josh, good to have you with us, mate, on SkyBluesExtra.
Yeah,
unfortunately,
right.
another defeat whilst you're on, unfortunately. Just seems to be every time you want to come on, it's defeat after defeat. What's your thoughts on this evening?
Well, as always, you guys have summed it up pretty well, I think. We really walked into that tonight. And I think, unfortunately, that's what worries me, is that could sum up our season. I feel like we're sleepwalking into relegation at the moment. I thought our away performance against Middlesbrough was probably the worst I felt this season in terms of actual performance. But in terms of the result, this matches it really. It was just, I don't think Middlesbrough particularly deserved to win, but we sort of, we gifted it to them. And I think in terms of up front, I mean, one of the things that's occurred to me recently is I thought, and you sort of touched upon it, which is the, everyone talks about the five at the back, defensively, but I think we also need to start talking about it in terms of going forward. Do we think the wing backs are actually providing us anything? Do we think Dabo and McCallum are creating goals for us? Because it doesn't seem, if we had the five at the back and it felt like, it's causing us defensively some troubles, but it's giving us a real threat going forward, that would be fine. But I think Dabo, unfortunately, is coming back from injury, so he's not quite himself. McCallum, I think he's been pretty poor for the past few matches, if I'm being brutally honest.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Particularly, and I think for both of them, particularly I'd say in delivery, they're not causing defence's problems. I'd struggle to think of a time where they've created a goal through it this season. So I think that's a real problem. I thought that the front three didn't really connect tonight. When I'm talking about O'Hare, Biami and Walker, they seem to be on different wavelengths. And then as always, defensively, 2 lapses in concentration have cost us. So really despairing tonight and, bitterly disappointed. Really.
I totally agree with what you were saying about how we're playing, especially with the wings. I think what we're trying to do is play like we played last year, a League One system in the Championship, which doesn't work because our defenders are not comfortable on the ball at this division. One of them has to be comfortable to bring the ball out at least 5 yards from where they are to play it into the midfield. And what that allows us to do is to get the wings in play. We had it last year with Liam Walsh. He used to drop back in and Kelly was there available as well. And the first defender would always bring the ball 5 yards. And that's not happening because they're all shit scared of losing the ball a bit basically.
That's spot on. I mean, that, and I suppose, part of that is the move up from League One to the Championship. Maybe we have to accept that. But I think because, certainly from when Dabo came in last season, we had this system. As a commentary fan, it was so exciting. He was almost like our own Trent Alexander, right? He was bombing down the wing. You could tell every game he went, he was causing defenders, problems, and it was, it really was sort of like something I'd never really seen as a commentary fan before, and that's what earned him the Player of the Season. But it's. And I think we're so attached to that now because we've never had that sort of attacking threat going forward with the wing backs at the moment. But I think we do have to accept, are they really, the way they're playing at the moment, are they really bringing us anything going forward? It's I don't know what you boys think, but
there just seems to be void of any confidence. Going forward, and then what that does in turn is because we're under pressure all the time, that brings the defense into making mistakes. It's just part and parcel of the game. I think Jonathan, go ahead.
Go on. No, sorry, you go, Dean.
I was just about to say, Jonathan, has sent a question here. I want to get your input on this. Do you think they'll get over the line?
It's been a, well, I mean, we all know, like the Premier League years, it's just going to be another typical COV. It's going to be so tight.
It's going to be horrible, isn't it?
Yeah,
it is. It is, absolutely. And I mean, what I think we do have to accept now is, if we didn't know already, we're in that scrap basically.
Yeah.
There's, there was a bit of me hoping sort of mid-season that maybe we could pull away. I don't think that's going to be the case. It's 50-50, but after tonight's performance, it'd be very hard to be positive, if I'm honest. I mean, I think someone mentioned it on the last live, which was that we've put all our eggs into the basket of, we'll beat Rotherham, we'll beat Wickham, we'll beat Huddersfield. There's absolutely no guarantee of that. So it's
especially if we play like the way we're playing at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's really squeaky bum time for us, and it's going to be borderline.
Nail biter. Josh, as ever, brilliant input, mate. Thanks very much for your time this evening.
Cheers, Josh, mate.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Thanks a lot.
Cheers, Josh. Thanks, mate. And like you said, I don't know how your nails are looking, Wardy, but start growing them because you're going to be biting them very, very soon.
Yeah, I need to save them for the last couple of games.
just want to ask where you sort of got that top from this evening. Just deep from the archives.
Yeah, I was saying before you came on, didn't I? It's one of those where it's not old enough to be retro. It's just out of date.
I don't think CityLink don't even exist anymore.
No, exactly. That's why it's collector's item, Dean.
Absolutely. Get in the frame. We'll go through a couple more comments before we get Jerry on the show. Nigel saying overall defending isn't the worst. However, if you don't score goals, it sort of forces the mistakes at the back. Defence must be going out each week thinking they're fighting for a 0-0. And I'll take that point at the end there. It felt like tonight we were like trying to see it out for a draw.
I think we were. I do actually think that, to be honest. I think even though we were sort of pushing forwards a little bit, it wasn't like we weren't going hell to leather at it, were we? It was a bit like, and like Robbins has done that many times this season, hasn't he? I mean, all the 0-0s we went through, there was always that air of like that was a good result, which it was to an extent. But I feel like we were just kind of settling for a point, really, which would have been all right, to be fair.
Again, most of the comments are echoing how we look leggy, and no subs being used. We've got a whole bench there. I also noticed Wilbur Parga wasn't involved in the matchday squad today. Yeah,
not sure why that is, but he's not really getting a look in anyway, is he? So
no, I mean, I've got the lineup here. If you sort of look at that bench, I mean, what options have you got there? I mean, Jamie Allen is obviously a forward-thinking player, but you're not going to replace O'Hare in a game where you sort of chasing the win. It's really only Jabello there as sort of an attacking option on the wing. Yeah. That completely changes how we play if we use someone like him.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's not a huge number of options, but I think Jabello could have been someone we could have brought on tonight. Could have been exciting to beat his man. Sheaf possibly could have added something a bit earlier on, but yeah. I think that's the most frustrating thing about this evening, isn't it? That we haven't really used the subs at all.
Yeah. Let's get Joey in. Joey, welcome to SkyBluesExtra once again, my friend. Good to have you with us. What's your thoughts on that, mate?
Oh, it was awful. Honestly, that was not good. That's the first. I've been quite positive all season, as you know, and I've tried to look the positive, but that was worrying tonight because I've said many a times before we're a sort of a League One side, in the Championship, but the hard work wasn't there. The graft, the grit, the determination that we saw against sort of Brentford was just not there, and that's worrying because when we're in a bit of a dogfight like this, you need every man going for it, and there's just too many on there. The likes of Walker, possibly McCallum as well, just not. Walker was strutting around the pitch, just not even asked at all tonight, and you can't have that at this level. It's so frustrating. I'm
really surprised. I don't know if you've noticed it, but about the lack of leadership. It looks like there's no sort of leaders on the pitch. I mean, Liam Kelly's come back in. He hasn't played great over the last two games, which is, understandable coming back from a long-term injury. But there still needs to be that leadership. I think we're lacking that.
Yeah, it's just it's so lethargic. It was almost like the players had seen the table before the game, saw that we were 6 points clear, and didn't realise that actually Rotherham have got the games in hand, and that a loss can really drag you in. It just felt like a sort of mid-table end of season performance, not arsed, and I don't think they quite realised just how much of a sticky situation we could get dragged into by the weekend. Especially looking at the table now, and you see Birmingham are on level points. Rotherham have got 3 or 4 games in hand now.
They're going to play. They play Sheffield Wednesday tomorrow night as well, don't they? So whoever wins that,
game,
the gap's going to be closed in some way, isn't it? Tomorrow, which is worrying. And like Derby now for me is an absolute must-win game. Like we have to win that game.
Potentially 5 must-win games now.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you got Derby, Rotherham, Luton, Wycombe, QPR, teams that really we should be at least putting in a performance, if not getting the result. That's for sure. Is Joey still with us? Or has he got? Hello?
He's dropped.
Oh, I think Joey's gone, unfortunately.
Everyone's had enough, mate.
Everyone's had enough, yeah. If he's a bit like me, for about 10 minutes during that second half, I was just like looking into the abyss, to be honest. I didn't know what the hell was going on. I just it just felt I think the lack of atmosphere doesn't help, does it? It just
that's
feels
the
flat.
thing, isn't it? That's the thing. It kills it a bit, doesn't it? We've said that, if you go and you have an evening out or whatever, it's more enjoyable. And also just be able to get behind the players as well.
Yeah.
At 1-1 and we're kind of going for it a bit and Dabo's going down the wing, just give him that bit of extra push. Like it probably does make a difference.
Absolutely. I mean, let's talk about our goal, because obviously we scored from a long throw in for the first time, I think, in forever, since maybe Aaron Gunnarsson was at the club. And then we score from that. It seemed to be a big threat, and then the 2 chances we get to go long again with throws, we don't do it. I don't understand. What's the game plan and the thinking behind that? Yeah,
it's very odd, isn't it? I don't know whether we thought that they'd worked it out, or whatever. But yeah, like it was. I think the long throw is dangerous, isn't it? It's even more dangerous when Ostergaard's playing, because he leaps like a salmon and flicks it on. But it was a good goal, really. I mean, I know it was an own goal, but it was a bit like their winner, really, isn't it? If you get it in that sort of area, it can go anywhere. I
think Joey's back.
Oh,
Joey, you're back.
Charge your phone up, mate.
There he is.
Internet's worse than the defence tonight.
Steady, mate.
There's holes all over it.
Hope BT aren't listening, mate.
Yeah, keep it quiet to them. But yeah, I just heard what you said about the long throw, and that's something that I've been shouting about all season. I think it's such a weapon to have. I've seen so many times against us, years gone by, long throws go into the box and just cause havoc, and we score from it, early on. And there was 4 or 5 times, I know it was down Dabo's side, that I just felt like you could just get it. It's as good as a corner, isn't it? At the end of the day, arguably better in some ways.
Yeah.
And we don't go for it. And for me, that's got to be Robbins saying that, or AD, that they're clearly telling him not to do it. And we've seen teams do it against us year on year, and we just haven't. Again, last season we didn't use it when I felt like we should. So it's a weapon we've got, and we need to use every weapon that we have to try and stay up. And we're just not using it.
Let's talk about those 5 games. I was talking about those 5 games coming up before you got rudely interrupted by BT. So we've got Derby, Rotherham, Luton, Wycombe, QPR. How many points do you think we need from those?
It's hard to say, because the teams around us are equally as poor. I think certainly the Derby game on the weekend, looking at the table now, they could be really dragged back into it. It's almost like a 6-pointer, because they're only 3 points ahead, and we need to keep as many teams in and around us as possible. So it just adds that sort of extra safety element. But it's hard to know how many to get. I mean, Rotherham have got all those games in hand, but lost the last 5 or 6, and
they still need to win them, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. So, we could lose the next 3 or 4, but still be in the same position, because we're relying on Rotherham. But you don't want to be in that position, as I think it was Josh said before, we're sleepwalking into it. It's like we're not realising the true understanding of just how easily you can get dragged back into it. I mean, Derby, everyone was saying about Derby being miles clear earlier, but they're only sort of 3 points clear of us, and a few wins, and they're dragged well back into it. So we can't be relying, in my opinion, on these sort of holding out for the draw, which it felt like tonight, because I don't think a point's enough. Every week we need to be grabbing the 3 points from somewhere. But we know what Robins is like. He's so fearful of losing that he won't make those changes. He'll hold out for the draw, but then you leave yourself in a situation like tonight where you can just sleepwalk into that loss. But it's Robins. He's been like that before, stubborn with the substitutions, and would rather hold out for the point than give it a go by throwing on Bakayoko or Allen or Bapaga. We know what he's like.
Yeah, I think that's sort of passing down onto the players now, because they seem to be shit scared to make any kind of mistake.
Yeah, I think that we've lost the style of play. I think the pitch, you don't want to make excuses because everybody's got to come here and play the same thing. But we had a style of football last season that was keeping the ball down and playing it around. It's impossible to do it. It's impossible. And I don't think, although Max does his best and works extremely hard, I don't think he is an out-and-out target man. So we're pumping these long balls to him, and he's doing his best, and there's lack of movement around him. So it almost looks like we've lost a complete understanding of how to, or what the strategy is. Are we going to pass it? Are we going to go long? A few mistakes from passing around the back, I think, has scared the life out of McFadzean and Hyen. They don't want to pass it around anymore. And when you find all these sort of issues, and you suddenly realise that this could be a really, really sticky situation going into the final few games, because we're adding up now. We've got the mistakes, we've got the lack of goals, we've got the lack of sort of style of play, the pitch is poor, teams around us possibly picking up points. Suddenly there's a lot of issues there adding up, and we've got to be extremely careful.
If you write them all down on paper, you start to run out of ink, Joey. That's the problem.
I was going to say that thing with the points gap as well. I know we get a bit bogged down in like how many points ahead we are of the bottom three, but what we probably really should be thinking about is the points tally we want to get to. Do you know what I mean? Like getting to that 50 points. Because if we let these 3, 4, or 5 games bypass us now, yeah, we might be 1 point ahead or whatever it is, but we're not going to be anywhere near 50 points, are we? So, and I don't expect Rotherham to keep on losing every week. It's just not going to happen. They're one of those weird teams that they'll probably go on a long losing streak, but then they'll go and win 4 in a row. They're different to us. We don't really do that as much. We just sort of pick up, we tick over a bit. So I think these next 5 are enormous. I think we need to get 9 absolute minimum. That's what I've got in mind.
I still think it'd be less than 50 points that will stay up.
Yeah, it might be.
I think some of the matches these teams at the bottom have got to play, they're going to be very, very difficult. The running, especially for Birmingham, is going to be tough. For me, 47 is the bare minimum we need to get to.
What's that? Still 12 points,
12
isn't
points,
it?
Yeah.
From 12 games, is it?
So that's a point a game, basically, yeah.
So hold out for a draw every game then?
Well, no, not if we're going to bottle it like we did tonight.
No, exactly. Yeah.
Joey, as always, mate, good to have you with us.
Cheers, lads. Have a good evening.
Joey, mate.
Cheers, Joey. It'd be really interesting to hear the Sky Blue Army's thoughts on how many points you think we're going to need to stay up, and how many points you think we're going to get from the next 5 games. We've got a really, really interesting running now over in March. Derby County starting Saturday. A week from then, Rotherham, then Luton, Wycombe, and finally QPR at the start of April.
That Rotherham game is just so big, isn't it? I mean,
massive, yeah. Because you win that puts a spanner in their works for a start.
It's a worryingly big game though, because we know what happened when we went there last season, and that was in a season where we only lost 3 games all year. We lost 4-0. So
yeah,
this is why I think the Derby game's so important. I really
Absolutely.
do. I think if we don't win on Saturday, or God forbid we lose on Saturday, it's going to be getting very, very nervy. Absolutely.
Let's get Glenn's thoughts. He's been waiting patiently in the wings. Glenn, good to have you with us again on Sky Blues Extra Live. Overall, a disappointing evening for the Sky Blues, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I pretty much called it at the start of the game that their bench may well win them the game, and it did. I think he got schooled by Warnock, Robbins again. I think the other 2 guys have summed it up. We sleepwalked into a defeat because we had no ambition, no desire to win the game. no game plan, nothing really. If I want to watch a team boot the welly the ball 20 yards up in the air, I'll go and iFollow and watch Wickham. There's passing it long, and there's passing it direct, and then there's just levering it as far away from our goal as possible, and we did way too much of that. You can play a long ball, and you can turn people around like Blackburn did for the goal against us on Saturday. That wasn't just booting the ball 20 yards as far away from goal as you can, and it was just so disheartening. The lack of any identity. Yeah, urgency and spark, and it was
very flat, wasn't it?
It was flat. Like at least the Forest game we lost, we absolutely battered them second half. I mean, it was carbon copy of that. I think Middlesbrough had 2 shots on goal all game, and then it just sums it up when Balassi had that chance at the end where he's missed it when it's hard. But it's just Robin's just I'll pull my hair out with him. I think somebody else summed it up on Twitter. If that had been a crowd had been there, they'd have booed him off the pitch, rightly or wrongly, because we're just too preoccupied about gotta not lose, and that's the wrong attitude. You've got to win games, and all you do is by not winning.
Do you think it's in their head that they're so far ahead of other teams points wise that these games mean nothing?
Surely not.
I think the problem is there's not enough of them who've been in a relegation battle. Yeah. I think even in the Premiership, we had people who were used to a relegation battle.
Being in that situation.
Being in that situation, you kind of get mentally hardened to it. And I think the year we went down, we had too many players who weren't used to being in a relegation battle, who were the bigger names, the Craig Bellamy's and people like that, and they weren't up to it. And I think we've got too many at the moment who aren't mentally strong enough for a relegation battle.
That's where you need the leaders to step up, right? And I made the point earlier. I think it was with Josh that the leaders in the team seem to have vanished. There seems to be no talking on the pitch. I mean, we've got no commentary. We can hear what's happening on the pitch. There's a severe lack of shouting from a commentary point of view, other than ADV Vash.
Yeah. Neil Warnock was louder than anyone tonight, wasn't he?
It's just our decision making, and it was. I don't think that was Kelly's best game he's had. I don't think there's a lot of them. But then when Matty James came on, Matty James seemed to be playing ridiculously high further forward, and Hamer was deep, and I would have thought you'd have done it the other way round. And we had the corner late on, and then we're faffing about playing it short, and it's just,
what are we doing playing that short there?
It's like I say, sticking the ball in the box, you cause teams problems. They put two balls into the box and got 2 goals. And I think that's why we're having a competition this season to see the worst goal we can concede. Because the second one was just, it was just embarrassing. And I just think it sums it up. I think our best forward pass into the box was played by Michael Rose when he put, I think it was Walker through or how I can't remember it. And it's just we cannot keep playing wing backs. I'm not sure. Oggy said something on CWR before the game. I think he said the majority of points we've got this season playing with a back 5 have been against teams playing with a back 4. If we come up against a team who plays three at the back, they just rip us to shreds. And it was always the way today. I just think, and it sums him up when he just made one sub. I really worry, because I think you look at the next 5 games, they've all got good dead ball people. They've got physical presences, and that's our main Achilles heel. We can't defend set pieces again. And every time they put a ball in the box, we looked awful. Wilson looks like he's got a lead urge. He doesn't know whether to come or go. But then in open play, he looks a commanding keeper. But when on dead balls and stuff, he comes, stops. And then we've got Faz seemingly for the goal marking thin air again. And McCallum gets splattered by the centre half when he scores. It's just
But it's all silly mistakes that, if we cut them out, it tends to, equal out over a season, especially that we turn some of the draws into potential wins and some of the losses into draws. We'd be in a much healthier position if we just cut out the silly mistakes. It's as simple as that, really. Never mind not scoring goals. If we just cut out the silly mistakes, we'd be in a much healthier position. It's as simple as that.
I just think we haven't got people who take ownership and responsibility. Like I watched a couple of highlights of last season. Look about the times that Walsh got the ball, drove with the ball forward. We had Arula who'd get the ball and drive forward. We had Westbrook. We had Dabo on forward. McCallum was driving forward. We have Gibello as well. We've got no one in that team besides O'Hare who drives with the ball. Hamer will go like 5-10 yards and then passes it. We're trying to play silly balls in the box, and I just worry. I think we've just got to. I'd go back 4 on Saturday, and he's just got to make a decision on what we're doing, because we're booting it forward and then we're playing little triangles out on the right hand side and not putting the ball in the box and then giving the ball away, and it's just it was a game that it's a way you lose. I think you said earlier, Wardy, you've got to show a bit of intent and a bit of positivity, and we showed neither of that, and that's the disheartening thing. I just can't remember the last time I've seen an opposition score against us, and I think, you know what, that was a good goal. We couldn't have done nothing about.
Yeah,
and that's the
agree with that.
Frustration. You just feel like you're banging your head off a brick wall at the moment.
Glenn, as always, mate, thanks very much. And, as we say, keep the faith. I'm sure we'll get there. Still a long way to go. Still 12 games. So hopefully we'll pull out the bag, mate. Thanks very much.
Cheers, Glenn.
It's massive now, isn't it? The next 5 games, regardless of how you look at it, they're absolutely huge. It's season defining now. It's come
See
to
what
that
we're made of now.
It's the business end of the season, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. See what we're made of now. I think I said it a couple of weeks ago that this run wouldn't really define our season, but the next sort of 5 or 6 will. If we don't win, 2, 3, 4 of these next 6, then do we actually deserve to stay in the division? That's what it comes down to, doesn't it? Really?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Simple as that. So,
and it all starts Saturday at St Andrews versus Derby County. It's a Derby side in weird form. Like most teams that were down the bottom end of the division. 3 losses, 3 wins and a draw in the last 7 games. How do you see this one sort of paying out?
Yeah, very hard to predict. I'd say it's probably an all right time to play them. Like I say, they've dipped a little bit after they picked back up again when Rooney first took over. They've got decent players in their team, haven't they? I think they caught us out. Was it a cross into the box? Was it Kazim Richards when we played them at their place? So that worries me a little bit. He's pretty good in the air, but I think I think we can get a result against Derby. I think it's at home. They're definitely beatable. They've lost 3-0 tonight. Obviously Cardiff are flying, but at the same time it's going to be tricky, isn't it?
Yeah, and they're absolutely ravaged by injury as well.
They are. Yeah.
Bielik is a massive miss for those for that Derby team. So, it's probably a good time, like you say, to sort of take this Derby team on. And what we need to do is just respond. No, we need to respond in a positive way. And we do that, all is forgotten, isn't it?
That's the thing. It's all about how we come out and play, isn't it? We've got to remember, like, it was only just over 2 weeks ago we beat Brentford 2-0. Do you know what I mean? So. And we were sort of scratching our heads on the podcast as to how can you not carry any of that momentum into your next games? I don't know. Maybe it would have been better if we'd played that game and then had a Derby or a Wickham or whoever straight afterwards, rather than Swansea away. But
you look at that Swansea game. I thought we held our own to a large extent in that game, and again, if we showed a little bit more positivity, a little bit more bravery, then we'd have come away with a result from there. 100%.
That's it. It's just that extra bit of positivity and bravery. Those couple of chances at the end, just bit of decisiveness. But I think we've got to come out and absolutely go for it on Saturday. and like you say, just respond really well to this. We have to. If we come out and show some fight, then people will feel a bit more positive about the situation. If we don't, then it's just getting more and more concerning week by week.
Well, hopefully we'll turn the tide this Saturday. 3 o'clock kickoff at St Andrews. That's it for this evening. Sky Blues Extra Live. We really appreciate you joining us. We'll be back Saturday for the next Sky Blues Extra Live. And until then, Sky Blue Army, stay safe and keep the faith.